everybody. This is the She Power Conversation series. This is our last conversations for this year. So I have a great panel. HCLTech is a proud supporter of women and leadership. We believe that our demographic is making a huge difference in the industry, especially in the tech industry. And we create this conversation with my panelists and friends to provide insight, to provide a window in our thinking as leaders. It hopefully will just give to the next generation or to the next woman next to us some thinking, some learning, and everything. So, on the spirit of sharing, I want to present my esteemed members. So, I'm Siki Giunta. I am the Executive Vice President at HCLTech for Cloud Native Services and Cloud Smart Strategy. Now, Janine, would you like to present yourself?
Yes, thank you, Siki. I'm Janine Soika. I'm the Senior Global Account Director at Versa Networks. Versa is a security software company based in Santa Clara, California.
Okay, Beate, would you like to present yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Beate Sissenich. I'm here from Nielsen, where I've been for the past 10 years. I'm a vice president of data science, and Nielsen, of course, is the market research company. We focus on media research, audience measurement. Very excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. And Christa.
Thank you, Siki. I'm Christa Petros. I am vice president of engineering program management at SiriusXM. We do a lot with operations, the service that you provide when you buy a new vehicle delivered by SiriusXM. So very excited to be here and part of the panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So let's start straight away with the first topic of discussion or question. So the tech sector is trying to lead the way in closing the gender gap and bringing more roles in emerging, more women in emerging roles, for example, in the Gen AI era and everything. So how do you see this statement in your company? And if I could have some practical example on what you think works and what it might not work. So shall we start with you, Janine, again?
Sure, thank you. I think, there's three big areas as I see it, and I'm sure there's plenty others that my peers here will bring up, but I believe very strongly in apprenticeship and internship programs. I think more tech sector companies should form relationships with their local high schools and have programs in place where young women in particular can work side by side with tech professionals in their role, just kind of shadow them and see what their day-to-day entails. I think in America in particular, we lack that type of exposure at very early ages for our youth. And this applies to men as well as women. So I think that apprenticeships and internships is one. I think role models and mentors is another, and those role models and mentors can be female or male, quite frankly. I think those individuals can help provide direct insights into what their job entails, what the day-to-day is like, help guide young women professionals that may want to enter that field, give them some advice as to coursework they should take, certifications they should take, just share their wisdom and knowledge with those wanting to come up into this industry. And then finally, I would say corporate education and training around diversity and inclusion is important, because whether we want to acknowledge this, we all come into this world with, preconceived biases and notions. And we need to be trained sometimes to open up to the idea of more inclusion and ways that we can be more inclusive. So I think those are the three areas I'd focus on: apprenticeships and internships, mentorships, and role models, and then finally corporate training around diversity and inclusion.
Perfect. And we'll spend quite a bit of time on mentorship because I think it's something. But Beate, what do you think it's, your important concept here?
Yeah, so if we're focusing on the entry point, right? Creating a talent pipeline and making sure that at the point of entry level positions, we really have representation from women as well as men. I have found that setting very clear metrics, hiring metrics, is really important. So for a little bit of background, my company just built up a large data science presence in Bangalore. So a lot of our workforce is now based in Bangalore, and we did that at a very fast pace. So hiring at scale and at speed. And we worked with recruitment companies without having clear hiring criteria. That is, we need to see X% of female candidates. Recruitment companies will not prioritize that, right? So I feel like actually having real hard criteria for what you're looking for in your talent pipeline, in your recruitment partners, et cetera, is really important, because otherwise it will just become window dressing. So the request that you need to see female candidates in your pipeline will just become an afterthought. So yes, having clear criteria, I think, is really important. Being measured also internally by making sure that you interview women as well as men, and that you have female interviewers in your recruitment process is really important. So these are all very measurable criteria, and I think they make a real difference in terms of getting women into the pipeline. One other element that I would also highlight is partnerships with organizations dedicated to bringing underrepresented groups into technology. So there are a couple that I can think of in the US. I'm sure there are others in other markets, but the ones that I've been particularly impressed with are Breakthrough Tech AI, that provide excellent curriculum, typically first theoretical training on things like machine learning, pipeline building, et cetera, and then projects where students work in parallel with industry representatives to build something really cool. And then finally, also training in sort of the professional soft skills that you need in order to interview successfully. So I found these kinds of programs really, really helpful. They go above and beyond what students will get from their regular university. And it's exposure to industry professionals, typically in their third or fourth year of college. So I found that really helpful as well. And that sort of adds to the, opportunities that you can get from an internship mentioned by Janine.
And if they're publicly stated in your company, it actually makes your pipeline more effective, and you find people much more engaged instead of, today in HCLTech, we have very good GenAI technology we built to read resume and summarize and everything. But you never know, does this people wants to be here, or is just my agency is telling me that these people are good? So it's just the extra thing that sometimes you miss. But Christa, what is your experience? Thank you, Beate.
Yeah, I think that we need to start as early as possible to start the pipeline. My observation is that, as early as middle school, you need to start to help young girls get a vision for what is possible. And how to get a vision involves being seen. You have to see women in leadership to be able to envision yourself as a leader. So as a leader in my organization, I try to partner outside with local community events and activities. One thing that happens every year is something, I'm in South Florida, and one thing that happens every year in my area is called Tech Gateway Day, where they solicit leaders across the region to come out and speak to middle school and high school students.
Yeah.
And being seen helps young women get a vision for what the possibilities are. And so I'm looking for more opportunities, encouraging other women in my organization to do the same so that, again, we can partner and bring up the next generation.
This is very true, because if we look at the statistics of the demographic of the people that listen to this webcast, the She Power, you will be surprised. It is the middle age dozen is either entry level, or more, I would say, women that they have a lot to say and they want to learn how to say, because we all have learned quite a lot. But I think starting early is very, very important. So we have done this recruiting. We have this great resources in-house. So starting with Beate, what do you think are the most important thing that an organization can do for a woman and give her a career, a motivation, being respectful that we are all looking for best skills? I mean, gender is one thing. I think gender is a skill, in my opinion, if you know how to put your gender a use of the mission. But what do we need to do to actually keep people like ourselves engaged and get to the stage of success we all of us have had? So if you want to lead the conversation.
Sure. So I have found that workplace flexibility is a really important way of retaining women once they get into the childbearing stage of their career, if that is what they want, right? Not everybody wants that. Totally cool. But while it is really important for entry-level people, young people, to be in the office, build networks, work side by side with their colleagues, I would also say having a hybrid workplace or a flexible remote policy is really important for keeping women at the company, with the company, and giving them the flexibility to stay in the labor market when they have young kids. I should also say that, and this is partly in the control of companies, partly this is how women make their own choices. Paying women well gives them the leverage at home to be the person who says, hey, you take care of the kids because I'm the main breadwinner. I have seen so often that women choose to marry partners who make more money. That is still often the expectation in assortative mating, right? Because men, in so many ways, have it easier. Perhaps the expectation is that they should also make more money. Once that inequality on the home front is established, it is self-perpetuating. Women will always be the partner in the home who will be doing most of the childcare when the kids are sick, who will take a sick day in order to take care for the children. So there is sort of a domestic dimension to it that is outside of our control as corporate leaders, but it definitely has an impact in how people are able to participate in the workplace. So that's sort of an aside. That's not the question that you asked, but I wanted to put that out there.
No, it's an important question. I mean, I'm happy that you went there, because sometimes I am in panels and there is this, shall we talk about that or shall we not talk about it? So we got to talk about the reality that we all live when we are at work. And, pandemic has created this gift that keep on giving, if you want my opinion, that has to manage the situation, because hybrid is good. Very early generation don't really work very well with hybrid, but hybrid applies to, any gender. But the life that you live outside, that is your domestic life, really impacts everybody. But there is this big perception that impacts the female more than the other. So we have to talk about it. And so, Christa, so you've got this great women full of passion and curiosity is joining your team and say, I'm never going to let you go. What would you do to keep her there?
Wow. That is an interesting perspective on, I think the key is you can't let her get to that point. So how do you prevent her from getting to that point? And I would say, first of all, you need infrastructure within the organization that is going to, make not just women, but make your team say, I can't see myself anywhere else. The type of infrastructure, formalizing some of the things that maybe weren't formalized when we were up and coming, good mentorship programs and good training programs. I know we touched on those. I also think to kind of leverage this flexibility edge, when I made the decision to go down the path of a technical degree, the first thing that came to my mind is it's going to be hard for me to have kids and be at home and be a caregiver, because my job is going to be demanding. And in the back of my mind, that was always something that I was grappling with. I knew that I wanted to pursue tech, but I was always concerned about how am I going to balance? Because, of course, this was pre-COVID, right? So one of the things that I did was I waited a long time to start to have kids. I waited. I worked on my career. I got myself established. I was young when I got married, so waiting was an option for me. But that it was definitely a conscious decision that I have to do this balancing, and how am I going to achieve those goals? And women will be faced with these types of decisions, and building in flexibility, infrastructure wise, you're going to be able to retain women. One thing that I used to do practically is I would step out at lunchtime. My daughter's school was 10 minutes away, and I would do lunch duty, 40 minutes, back and forth in an hour. And I would do that once a week, sometimes twice a week, because there was a time when that was really important to her, seeing me there. So sometimes I had to stay a little later to get some things done, but I had the flexibility to step out. So building infrastructure with flexibility is key to long-term retention.
Absolutely. And communicating about it, it's very important. It is extremely important to just have an open communications and say, you are a person, you have life persons. So let's communicate. There is no, you can't say this or you can't say that. You have to bring your personal life and be able to communicate and say, I am going to do this program for 6 months because I really need to be close to my daughter, and communicate, and having people in the organization that can receive that type of conversations, and train even young managers and any managers that this type of conversation needs to happen for people to be comfortable all the time. So, and Janine, we were talking about, we didn't have D&I when some of us, well, we knew what it was, but it wasn't this thing that people talk about it. So what's in your organizations you can see, or things that you think you've seen in other organizations that they are very good at maintaining and retaining and respecting gender diversity?
Yeah, I agree with some of the comments made by Christa and Beate, that companies that recognize the fact that women are not just working professionals, but we are mothers, we're caregivers, we have other responsibilities outside of the workplace, and they make accommodations for those. I think that helps go a long way in making women feel supported and comfortable being able to take on both of those responsibilities, the work-life balance. Simple things like making sure you have a nursing room for mothers that are nursing. The flex time was talked about on this call. I myself, I have 2 young adult children now, but I've worked my entire, lifetime. Throughout their young years, they were in daycare, and I would always look for daycare facilities that were close to where I worked so that I could take my lunch hour and go and spend time with them when they were young infants and, take care of them and come back to work. When I was doing that, there wasn't the same corporate structures in place. In fact, there were no nursing rooms. I used to have to do that in the ladies' room, with the mom. And I can remember other women coming in and being like, what's that noise? They would hear the humming that the machine would make. And it just made me feel, awkward, like I had to be private about it. And we need to just accept the fact that we have lives outside of work. Companies need to respect that. And they need to put measures and, things in place that make us feel like we can do both. We can come to work and give it our all, but we can also take care of our responsibilities outside of work. So I think those are important things that companies need to do. I think in terms of making women feel empowered in the workplace, making sure that they're feeling included. I don't know about the other women on this panel, but I work with a lot of men, and I'm sure you do as well.
No, really?
They often talk about sports. There's always sports conversations, sports analogies. Hey, I love sports. I love to be active. I hike, I ski, I cycle, I do a lot of things. But watching football, watching soccer, watching baseball is not my thing. So when they start engaging in all these sports analogies and sports conversations, again, I just kind of tune out and I don't have anything to contribute because it's not something I participate in. So I think just, little things like that, like just recognizing that you may not be intentional in excluding women from conversations, activities, but just, making sure that you're bringing them in. And when there are job openings for opportunities that would bring more women into what I'm going to air quote, more traditional male roles, making sure you encourage the women in your corporation to pursue those opportunities. Let them know that this is a safe area for them to explore and make them feel supported. I think these are basic things that companies, can be doing and should be doing. And I think a lot of them are starting to do that now. Unfortunately, when I was coming up in my career, a lot of this had not been in place or even on the radar. So
I'm with you. We want to think that we haven't come a long way, but we actually have come quite a way. So certain things are normal now. Mentorship, we got to talk about it, and it's a a big thing for me. For instance, in your example, I would just say to my mentee that always say I'm awkward in a meeting, I would just say this is 5 minutes where we say anything, but then we get down to it. This is own the meeting and control the agenda, and show some, yourself and what you want to do. Otherwise, you feel like, okay, when they're done, but there's things like this that you want to say to your mentee. So let's start with Christa this time. Christa, what do you talk with your mentee? What's your secret sauce in maintaining, mentees or building mentoring relationship?
Yes, mentorship has been a very important aspect of my own journey, and I am advocating for that for others. I am a mentor for several people. We started a formal mentorship program in the last couple of years with a lot of structure, which is amazing. When I was being mentored, it was very informal, and it was the kind of thing where I was seeking someone who could provide guidance and insight. And then I made sure that I was doing my part to take away that input and be able to apply it. With the system and the structure that's in place now, one of the things that I really like to focus on with my mentees is what are the key goals that you are striving to achieve, and how can this relationship, get you closer to meeting those goals? So I had someone approach me in the last quarter that hasn't been promoted for a very long time. She's she's very capable and very intuitive, and she's looking for how to break through. And so the key that I was able to offer her is, what qualifies for somebody to be promoted. There are certain criteria and certain things that the upper management team is looking for. How do we weave in some things that can get her some acknowledgement and some responsibility in an area that would be looked upon when the next time or in the next couple promotion cycles come around? And so we're very tactically looking at how we can build her resume so that when she goes into her reviews with her manager, that she has some tangible, can build on that, and hopefully that will lead her to kind of break through and get the promotion that she's seeking.
Awesome. Beate, what's your, beat on mentoring?
So I actually have a very ambivalent take on mentoring. So I'm a recovering academic. I worked for a university for 9 years before I entered industry. I did not achieve tenure, partly because I did not understand the whole mentorship game. I did not realize that just being good at my academic mission was going to be good enough, and that I really needed to be cultivating mentorship relations with senior faculty, senior colleagues, networks of both peers and more senior people. And I think I actively resisted the idea because it resonated with my sense that essentially mentorship is like a patron-client relationship. Like I'll be the, junior female student who is carrying the senior professor's briefcase and is making him coffee. So it took me a really long time to get over that. And a switch of careers, just to be clear. I've had some great mentors along the way, but I did not understand that that is really important. And there is no shame in asking for guidance on sort of the soft skill that nobody otherwise tells you about. Whether those soft skills are how you build a network, how you strategically say yes or no to specific projects, how you pitch in sometimes, but also want to make sure that you're not always the person who's organizing the conference, so other people can highlight their research achievements. So those kinds of things, I think, are what mentors can be great for, right? Teaching you the soft skills that certainly your formal training in tech does not always equip you with, right? But I think it is also really tricky to structure mentorship relations so they do not become this kind of quid pro quo senior to junior relationship that I was so afraid of in my previous academic career.
It is so true. And thank you for sharing that experience, because I think mentorship, in my opinion, there is a little bit of give and a little bit of take. And the give, we always want. But on the other end, the other day I had this girl again. Oh, I don't get promoted. I write the best code ever. I never get errors and everything. And I say, yes, but code doesn't talk to anybody. If you don't, if during the sprint review you don't talk and don't put yourself out there, I can tell you one thing: your code is not going to wake up and say, Siki's code is the best code. I want to be coded by Siki. So these kind of things are very important. But there are a lot of people, a lot of ladies, young ladies, that they said, I am clever. People should know about it. And I'm going, if it was that easy, sometimes it doesn't. So, but Janine, what's your take in there?
Yeah, I love this conversation. And Beate, I'm kind of in the same camp you are when it comes to mentorship. So I personally have never had a mentor throughout my career. And looking back on that, I realized that I made things so much harder for myself than they really needed to be in not seeking out a mentor. But I didn't know how do you get a mentor, right? Like there were no formal mentorship programs in any of the companies that I worked for when I was going through, my formative career years. And I didn't know how do you network? Nobody teaches you these soft skills, right? I would go to certain events and I would try to speak with people and get to know them. But honestly, it always felt awkward. And what I've learned now, looking back, and my advice to women who want to come up in their career or who want to advance to other positions within their company or outside their company, I would say to them, join some professional groups and associations where you can meet other professional women and men. Men can be great mentors, by the way. Doesn't have to just be women. But go into it with the mindset that you want to get to know them. You want them to get to know you. Don't go into it with, what can they do for me? Like, I need to leverage their experience. I need to, monetize what they've done, and I need to make it work for me. Go into it with, I'm going to build relationships with these people. I'm going to get to know them. They're going to get to know me. A mentor relationship doesn't have to be one-sided, nor should it be, in my opinion. Your mentor can learn from you, just as much as you can learn from them. So I would say get involved in these groups, and don't just sign up for the group and pay the membership fee. Go to the meetings, participate in the virtual events, make an effort to try to build the relationships with people. Once you have that relationship established, then you can start asking them for advice or opinions. But don't always take. Give too, offer your support in exchange for that relationship mentoring that you're looking for. So I would say, go out and start doing these things if you really want to mentor. If you don't have a formal mentor program, and I love, Christa, that you have this formal mentorship program established within your company. I love that. I would love to learn more from you on what you're doing. to see if we could bring something like that into my company. But for those companies that still don't have a formal structure, my advice would be get involved in these professional women's groups and other technology groups. Start, meeting people and reaching out to those people that you find are in positions or roles that you aspire to get into, and start trying to build relationships with them. And then at some point where it's appropriate, ask for some guidance, ask for their opinion on something.
Can I ask a question that follows up on this? Am I allowed?
As I told you, this is a conversation. We just have we have coffee, so.
Yeah. So how important is it to formalize, like to slap the label of mentor-mentee on the interaction or on the relationship? Because there are definitely people I go to for sort of their point of view. I don't think I've ever called anybody my mentor either. I've had a dissertation advisor. I had a very tense relationship with him. He's the reason why I had such a problematic relationship toward the
more than a mentor.
Right.
I think it needs to be formalized more for the people, for the younger generations. I think we didn't have mentor. I knew people that I would go to, people that could be myself, people that I knew they would get me some places. Now we've just taken all this knowledge and put it in programs. But what I see as well, why it's important a program, because having a mentor is a journey, okay, and having a mentee is a journey. You've got to decide what you want to take out of it and what they need to take, and measure it. And it cannot be infinite time for forever, and it's got to have some structure too, because I have found that when there is no structure and no clarity, the value is not recognized. And as well, if I have a mentee, I really don't have the guardrails and guidance to say, okay, let's talk about this and that and that. So this meeting of mind at the beginning, I think it's very important. That's my experience anyway.
There could be a generational component to
That's
it. Absolutely. I think what Janine said, though, for example, what you talked about in terms of reaching outside and getting involved, I think that a good approach is to do that within your organization.
Yeah.
So there's the formal mentorship, and then what my experience was always informal, which was I'm going to build relationships with people in my organization that I recognize have insights and capabilities, and I want to understand how I can benefit from those. And in building the relationship with people, then you get the opportunity to ask for input, ask for advice, and that's inside your organization.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that for me, it was, I didn't have anything formal to compare it to, but it was a huge asset for me, helped me navigate getting sponsored for an executive MBA program, and that opened the door and my eyes to a lot of different opportunities. And so I do think that the same principles that you can use and apply outside of the organization can be applied inside the organization, and it doesn't have to be part of although I love the formal program, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
The formal program brings a level of responsibility and accountability that the informal program may lack. And in some cases, people are more comfortable with that. And I think that's okay. I think a dual approach is something that you can consider as you carve out your path and try to navigate.
So we are coming to the end of we got 5 minutes or a little bit more. It could go forever. Sometimes we just are sad that ends. But I like to close with very fast. What would you say to yourself, younger self, or what would you say to one or two things to the younger generation of women, joining tech career? And why this is important? We see that when people look at the webcast, they just freeze and take, and the transcript goes. So just your words of wisdom, that would help. So let's start with Christa, since you were the last one speaking.
Sure.
And we go this way.
I would say to my younger self, give yourself a little grace. I always felt the pressure. I have to be better. I have to work harder. I have to show that I belong here. And sometimes I was too hard on myself. So I would say, work hard. Absolutely, you have to put in the effort, but give yourself some grace. Don't talk yourself out of staying on your path and moving forward. Don't get discouraged. Keep your confidence and keep moving forward.
Thank you. Beate.
The pressure is on, gosh. So I would say that building relationships and approaching work as a team sport rather than an individual sport is really important. And it is not about winning the next argument, but really about building something together. And in order to do that, you need to approach your colleagues as peers and assume best intentions in all.
Thank you. Janine?
Yeah, again, I have a similar comment to that is, don't go it alone. Really find people that you can connect with that can help you in your career journey, help give you that guidance, that support. Just be a sounding board for the direction you want to take. So wherever you're at in your career journey, if you're just in college and getting ready to embark on your first job, or you're already in your first job and you're looking to advance and move up, seek people that you can build relationships with, that you can learn from and obtain some guidance from. There were comments made earlier on several young women who didn't get promoted and they were frustrated with that. I think a mistake that sometimes we make is we think if we just work hard and do a good job and go that extra mile, it will be acknowledged, it will be rewarded. And that's often not the case. It often comes down to how well networked you really are. So we all know the saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. I'll flip that around and say, it's who knows you. If somebody knows you and knows what you're capable of, and they believe you're going to be a strong team player, they want you on your team. But if you're just quietly doing your work and they don't really know you and know what you're doing, you're not doing yourself a service. You really have to put yourself out there and get to know these people that are in roles above you and to the side of you that can help you on your career journey. So don't go it alone is my best advice.
Awesome. I'm going to close in a bit of a summary. My big one is in technology, you have to be curious. And then curiosity will always get you to the place of happiness. I think I have some very great friends that they hit a wall, and that's when I say to them, have you asked yourself new things about technology that you haven't asked yourself before? Have you tried something new every day that you're going to fail, but at least you do it? And last thing I say to everybody, misery is optional. Just again, get a village, get yourself, go on a run, and just make yourself to happiness, and that will serve you all the time, anytime in your career. And yes, as lady in technology, it is hard sometimes, but we have an amazing community. So anybody watching this podcast, these three ladies, I'm sure that they have a great LinkedIn because I saw it. I'm sure if you reach out, they will be able to answer and guide you through your career. On this note, I want to wish everybody happy holidays. I'll see you in 2025. All of you, please have a great time with your families. And thank you for being on the webcast with us today.